So Alison, Cheshire East has got one of the highest percentages of take-up of the Global Learning Programme in schools in the country. You're going again, you've managed to get an impressive number of schools into your network, and you've planned an impressive programme of learning over the whole days. What would you say is key factors in that?
Key factors were to, first of all, engage head teachers. It's their decision whether to engage with any kind of project or programme. So I gave a presentation to the Cheshire East Head Teachers Conference. I understand what schools are under, the kind of pressures, the workload. I understand how head teachers think and plan. And as a head teacher myself, I could share with them my feelings about the importance of global learning and the impact on my school. And having had a recent Ofsted inspection, that was very persuasive too.
And I'd just like to ask you sort of originally, what inspired your global learning journey?
Wow. I think I need to go back to when I began training as a teacher. I qualified in Manchester local authority. I started working in Moss Side in Manchester and was very, very lucky to be involved in the World Studies programme with Miriam Steiner. And that opened my eyes to a different way of viewing the curriculum and children's views of the world. And that inspired me to think differently about my world.
Why have you continued to champion global learning?
Because it's not an option, I don't believe. It's something that is absolutely essential to children's learning so that they can be supported and encouraged to continue to be curious about the world. But in being curious, they need to develop an approach to critical thinking, to ask those difficult questions that they're wrestling with. But in being able to do that, they need accurate knowledge of the world. And it's some really fun, exciting, engaging learning experiences to make them think differently. And it enables us adults to challenge stereotypes that are still being perpetuated. And most recent examples of those are high-profile examples such as Brexit, the election of a president. Children talk about it, they see it, they need to make sense of it, and we need to help them do that. So, and schools are the perfect place to do that.
What difference do you feel that global learning has made to your school?
It enriches the curriculum. We have a statutory curriculum. We don't have a choice about that. So let's do the best that we can. But global learning, I believe, and this is how I talk to teachers and heads about this, is a golden thread. It's not an add-on. It must run through the whole life of a child in school. And that's not just to do with their learning per se, the academic side of school. It's also to do with their experience of school through assemblies, through projects, through how they talk to visitors, how they engage with the life of the school, whether that's to do with their involvement in the achieving team, which is the equivalent of our school council, whether it's meeting people coming into their classroom to work with them in a workshop situation. It covers everything, absolutely everything. And it gives children a greater sense of confidence to be curious and ask questions, but also form their own opinions and be able to justify them. That's important to me.
And how did you manage to get so many head teachers in schools to sign up to your Global Learning Network?
I was asked to do a presentation at the Development Education Centre National Conference a while ago, and I was challenged as a head to talk to them about what schools were going through. And when I actually sat down and listed those things, it's immense. The level of change that schools are going through is relentless and very, very significant radical changes. So for heads to engage in something that could be perceived as extra is a real challenge. So I had to convince heads that this isn't an extra. This is that golden thread. This will enhance their curriculum, but not do much more than that. It will enhance the ethos of their school. It will enhance children's perceptions of the world, but not just children, their staff, because their staff are key to this. Also other stakeholders such as parents, the community, and the wider community that they have contact with. And in engaging with heads at a conference for the Cheshire Heads Conference, I was able to talk about my school and the journey we've gone on and convince them of the impact of that. I'd just had an Ofsted inspection. So the outcomes of that Ofsted inspection, that makes heads sit up because they want to do well during an Ofsted. And you know, the statutory challenge around delivering British values, what does that mean? Really, what does that mean? So the one thing I said to the lead inspector was, we don't teach British values, we teach human values at Egerton. And that made her think as an Ofsted inspector. And on her evidence trail, she came back and she shared with me that she was very impressed. And my Ofsted report speaks for itself.
What have you found useful about the Global Learning Programme itself?
There is lots of examples of resources that the teachers can access, planning tools. So the Global Learning website is key, absolutely key, because it gets down to grassroots of planning. But it also brings practitioners together to really challenge their own perceptions of their view of the world and how they're going to share that as teachers and their moral purpose in doing that. It helps them frame their moral purpose. And I think the Global Learning Programme helps to do that.
So if you had a final message, what would you say to head teachers and teachers who may be unaware of the benefits of global learning?
I would say that this is a no-brainer. It will transform your school in a way that you could not possibly perceive or dream of, because it affects every aspect of the life of a school, every aspect of a child's experience, but also adults' experience involved with the school. We shouldn't ignore the teachers, the parents and the adults, because they have an influence on their children and they are learning just as much as the children are, and the children are teaching them about the world, and that's what's so exciting about it. So I would say do it and you will be amazed at the results.
So what would you say to a head who said, we're interested in this, but we're a bit worried that we may not have quite enough expertise or the capacity to run the network? What would you say?
I would say there's always a solution to a problem. And we've got to put our heads literally together to find that solution. And in finding the solution, schools will benefit. We've gone on a learning journey as an expert centre with GLP, and I'm very excited about this year because the first conference with the heads and the second conference with the subject leads, I had some heads come to that too because they were so inspired and interested.
Obviously the Global Learning Programme is coming to an end next year. It'll run for 4 years.
Yeah.
We've got thousands of schools involved, more than ever before. What would you like to see being the legacy of the Global Learning Programme?
The greatest legacy would be for the schools to continue to work together. Now obviously there's a big challenge around time and funding, so that needs to be considered. But that would be the greatest legacy. There is nothing more powerful than practitioners sharing good practice.
Thank you very much. Well, I look forward to the
welcome.
continuing development of your network and learning about what you're doing in your school. So thank you very much.
Thank you.